What's up my dear boys and girls, it's your Ranger Boy here, and first of all, happy anniversary to the Pokemon XY anime. Of course, this right here is a really special occasion since this is not only some ordinary anniversary, but in fact, we are celebrating exactly 10 years since the XY anime graced its presence upon us. Before we continue, let me say that this video will not be very analytical or fancily edited, but this is basically just me talking from the heart while reliving a little bit of nostalgia and memories that are connected with the series. But at the same time, I want to use this very special occasion to know a little bit more about you guys. How did you discover the XY anime? And what was your very first experience with it? Honestly, I would love to know and read all of your stories. So, feel free to share your story, and in the meantime, I will share mine. I won't go into too much detail in terms of what exactly I went through in the year of 2013, but I think there's one terminology that really does describe my situation perfectly. Change. There were so many things changing in my environment, not only all at once, but also really fast. Things like moving out of your parents' home, living a little bit more independently, having to actually care about finances, organizing things, time management, your very first job, and also going to university, and so on and so on. And if you mix all of this together, it's a guaranteed recipe for utter chaos, let's be real here. So the first thing that really came into my mind to provide me with some sort of stress relief was, well, a hobby. The problem was that at that point in time, I really had no direction or idea at all of what I could do as a hobby. Until I suddenly remembered my very old YouTube channel that lay dormant for I think the last 4 years, and how much fun I actually had making AMVs. And in the end, I decided to make AMVs again, aka the most painful, most time-consuming, and most frustrating videos you can ever do on YouTube. God damn it. But thanks to me returning to AMVs, I then started to get other AMVs recommended to me, including this one right here from an old friend of mine. And while watching this, I had 3 thoughts running through my mind. Number 1, what the fuck? This is really Pokemon? Number 2, hold on a minute, is this the Ash Ketchum? He looks way different compared to how I remembered him, and in a good way, he looks good. And number 3, who is this Serena girl? And why the hell do they look so cute together? Needless to say, I got hooked and enjoyed the ride from beginning, middle until the very end. And now, especially with the power of hindsight, those 3 questions that I asked myself way back then simultaneously were also 3 major appealing aspects of the Gen 6 anime that a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, stated as their reasons to give the anime a chance. Or in other cases, they returned back to the anime because of those specific reasons. The stunning animation art style of XY, which we rarely have seen on such a level, Ash being just a complete and utter badass, and last but not least, the introduction of Serena, aka the introduction of amour shipping. I think the animation and art style is one of, if not the major selling point of XY. The most impressive thing to me was not only how good it looked, but also how consistent it was in terms of quality for the most part. I barely can remember any sort of major animation error that really stood out. I have to mention that because XY also aired during the Dragon Ball Super days, and the early days of Dragon Ball Super, oh boy, were absolutely horrendous when it came to animation quality, to the point where the Dragon Ball fandom was constantly memeing on it and just ridiculing it to no end. And both Dragon Ball and Pokemon are such huge franchises, and even back then I did appreciate the consistency of XY. After that we had both Sun and Moon and Journeys, which both were very controversial to say the least in terms of animation, and fans left in droves because they absolutely loved the XY style. And even after a decade, people somehow still are craving for the XY style to make a return. It's crazy. Then we had this different display of Ash as this more mature and more badass version of himself. Don't get me wrong, Ash had cool moments in the past as well, but man, XY Ash really hits different, doesn't he? Especially since he followed after Black and White Ash, who a lot of people did not like at all. But this version of Ash was a different kind of species. The boy was literally the definition of a badass, behaved like a badass, behaved like a total leader, and sure, there were people who quote-unquote criticized him for not behaving like a regular 10-year-old like he did in both Sun and Moon and Journeys, but in my opinion, that was the major selling point of Gen 6 Ash, that he wasn't behaving appropriate to his age, but more mature, because seeing this kind of Ash is what we always wanted. Basically, XY Ash was the closest thing to a grown-up Ash that we ever got, and that's probably the reason why many regard this version of him as the best version ever. Now, amour shipping. Satosere, Ash and Serena. Where do we even start with this one? No matter if older fans or new fans, somehow, some way, a pairing between 2 characters became such a big phenomenon that it became a huge reason for people to either start watching the anime or to return back to the anime after they left thanks to Black and White. And even people who left after Brock and Misty were gone, even those people returned back to XY, and also thanks to Amour. It was so big that the kissing scene between Ash and Serena literally broke the fandom, broke the internet, entered mainstream outlets, and it broke the YouTube view count. It's wow, I mean wow, just wow. And especially for me, just the concept of a shipping was kind of a shock, because back then when I was active within the shipping community, we constantly talked about hints and moments that could indicate that maybe the female protagonist has some feelings for Ash, but to actually have a female main character who openly shows her obvious crush for Ash, that was something I haven't seen before. Not even Misty, since she showed it in a more indirect tsundere tomboy kind of way, but not really in this more open manner. That concept alone was just mind-blowing. And honestly, can you even blame the fans who came back thanks to Ash and Serena? Look at them, they really do look fucking cute together, and they just have this sort of chemistry that, I don't know, it just looks and feels right. So yeah, I can't really blame people who came back just because of the shipping, because it wasn't appealing shipping after all, even till this day. I would assume that these 3 points that influenced me back then were also the top 3 most popular selling points of the XY anime. But even if you disregard those top 3, I think the rest of XY still holds up very well and are impressive in and of itself. The overall world building, the vibe that XY had, and that it felt just like the classic Pokemon formula, but basically being modernized for the current time. The characters, no matter if main character, main villains, rivals, or even mere side characters, are genuinely really likable, and especially like the 4 main characters not only being very likable and very relatable, but this overall togetherness, it didn't really felt like it was a group of just friends or companions. It honestly felt like a family. Like a lot of people label these 4 not as the XY group, but as the XY family. Also absolutely loved the numerous build-ups and storytelling approaches that they did during those 3 years of the anime. Ash's classic quest of collecting gym badges, which till this very day was the last time we have ever seen him doing so, and in hindsight I'm glad that it was, because we had several of his best ever gym battles within the XY saga. But then we also had other build-up stories, like the whole Ash Greninja story arc and how they built that up since basically day 1 of XY, and in the end, Ash Greninja became so popular that Greninja in general is known as one of the top 3 most popular Pokemon, even surpassing the likes of Charizard and Pikachu. That's insane. The introduction of Sawyer and the teacher-student dynamic that he had with Ash, Serena's entire story of trying to find her own way, rebelling against the will of her parents, and in the end found her own dream in the form of Pokemon performance, while witnessing several ups and downs throughout her career. The great way they introduced and built up the gym battle between Ash and Clement, and even though I wish they would have done a little bit more with Clement afterwards, what they did leading up to their climactic gym battle was awesome. Bonnie being a really well written 4th character and basically getting her own dedicated story arc with the introduction of XYZ. It was so good that people even till this day point out how Max should have been just like Bonnie. And if we talk about XYZ, we of course have to talk about Alan, Mayrin, Team Flare, Zygarde, and how, for the first time ever, a special Pokemon side anime, which didn't really seem to be related to the main anime at all, had a crossover with the main anime, and how those characters majorly interacted with each other, which is something we have never seen before. It's a concept that truly was mind-blowing. That's like integrating things like Pokemon Origins, Generations, or Twilight Wings into the main timeline. But XY actually had the balls to do so, and thanks to the Mega Evolution special, there was no build-up for Alan needed, because it was already there. And the way they made the Mega Evolution special canon to the main anime was absolutely brilliant. I could talk on and on about different other stuff, but enough for now. But with all being said, it's kinda obvious why fans in the community put the Gen 6 anime in such high regards. Is it absolutely perfect? No, because no series is. But XY had way more good things rather than bad ones. And because of all these overwhelming amounts of positives, for many, it's been labeled with prestigious titles like the peak of the Pokemon anime franchise, the last great anime series, the last time it was good, and last but certainly not least, more than often fans declared it as one of, if not, the greatest of all time. Which for me personally, only can be said about 2 generations, and only 2 generations even have the right to earn that label. Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, and the now 10-year-old, personally life-changing, and timeless Pokemon XY. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much Pokemon XY. For the characters you introduced, for the quality you provided, for the hype moments that you delivered, and for the memories that you created. Thank you. Thank you so much for 10 years of greatness. Anyway guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. What is your opinion? Tell me, and just like always, see you guys in the comments down below. Bye guys!